Let's watch what's happening.
Welcome to Gold Creek. Here are a few events that we have coming up. If you'd like to learn more information about these events or other things we have coming up in the future, please visit our website at goldcreek.org or our GC app. Welcome to Gold Creek.
Come with me, and I'll show you what every one of you can do single-handed.
Of this great new color set, the one big feature that sets it apart is an amazing new wireless with electronic remote control. Or we've gone from 8 engines done, we have
Oh, this is my T-Mobile.
And we are calling it iPhone.
So welcome to the world.
Hello, Bob.
Alexa, turn off the lights.
Okay.
Well, good morning. Good morning. It is truly a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited about this series, and I'm really excited about this morning as we talk about being a digital native, because we are talking about communication. And it's funny, as an orator, one who talks for a living, to talk about communication. And so as we get into it, really we got to start with defining what is a digital native. And we've got some fun questions, but last week we said a digital native is anyone who grew up with the internet or now has any sort of mobile device that has email and knows how to use it. Some of us have those devices and don't know how to use them. You're not a digital native, but we love you. Some of us have that device and don't know how to not use it. This last week, actually, we did a challenge for everyone. How many of you guys participated in the challenge of a digital fast? Did one night without your device of any sort? No, I did. You what? She attempted. I love it. An attempt was made. So, funny story. Wednesday night. Yeah, it was Wednesday night. I was running out of the house, and we have this pathway that's gravel, and on the sides of the pathway it's like 4x4s. It's wood, and it can be kind of slick. And so I'm running out of the house. I gotta grab something from the car, and I step on the wood instead of the gravel, and my feet slip out from under me. My phone was in my back pocket, and I landed right on the corner of the 4x4 on my phone in my back pocket. That phone did not survive. Yeah, so I went all of Wednesday night and all of Thursday and most of Friday without my cell phone. And I gotta be really honest, it was amazing. I loved it because this device right here does not shut up. And I had a case on it, I broke the case. Just in case you're wondering, like Josiah, it's your own fault, you didn't have a case. No, I had a case, I broke the case too. 220 pounds of man coming down on the phone. You guess who the winner was. It was amazing to be disconnected for a little bit. So if you haven't done it, if you haven't tried it, every week during this series, we're gonna be doing the digital fast. If you have our app, we'll send you out a reminder. We have other resources on there. So if you don't have the app yet, go to the App Store, get the Gold Creek app, because it is actually really valuable to have as just a tool to remind you of how we're using our devices. Well, with that, some fun questions. There was a recent study done, and so we're going to see if we can guess the answers to some of these. The first question was this: how long are most web pages viewed for? So how many seconds is the average web page viewed? Any guesses? 3, I like it. Anyone else? 5, answer is less than 10 seconds. We do not have a very good attention span. Not at all. In fact, I would venture to say that if there was a less than 5 category, we would put it there, but it takes most young people longer than 5 seconds to read something now. So we'll keep going. Next one, how often do we glance at our inbox? Now, inbox being text messages or emails, how many times in a day do we glance at our inbox? Any guesses? 50? All right. Too many? Yeah, that's fair. Survey says 30 to 40 times per hour. I said per day. I lied to you. I misled you. I apologize. 30 to 40 times per hour. Wow. All right. This next one is one of my favorite. How many teen texts per month? How many times do teenagers text per month? 1,000? 10,000. All right. Now, let me give a caveat here. This survey was actually done right before Snapchat became big. Okay, so that it changes things, right? So pre-Snapchat, we're looking at 3,300 texts per month. I was 15 when I got a cell phone. I sent 300 texts in my first month. My dad came to me and said, Josiah, you only get 250. You sent 300. So it's 10 cents per text over that 250. And he expected the money. I was like, I don't have money. He's like, it's all right, you can work for it. 250 texts though. They're sending 3,300. And it's incredible because that's before Snapchat. Jake, how many snaps do you send per day? Ballpark it for me. Several hundred per day? Come on. All right, so we got an idea of how connected we are. If you remember, we had a memory verse for this series. That was just a little bit of fun that is vaguely related to what we're talking about today. It doesn't have to be. I'm speaking and you're listening, so we're gonna do that. What's our memory verse? 1 Corinthians 6:12. Even though I am allowed to do anything, I must not become a slave to anything. Anyone memorize that this week? No? Maybe different version? All right, let's read it all together. Even though I am allowed to do anything. Sorry, when I said all together, it's a call and response. Read it with me. Even though I am allowed to do anything, I must not become a slave to anything. Even though I am allowed to do anything, I must not become a slave to anything. Well, it's funny because we're talking about communication. And this device, released in 2007, and it's evolved since then, was built around the premise of helping to develop communication and the way that people are connected. But I found that communication skills are worse than ever. How many of you guys have ever gotten a text from someone, not even a young person, just someone in general, that makes absolute no sense? It's just nonsensical. Yeah, I would say it happens on the daily to me, where I'm like, hey, there's about 12 grammar errors there. You're using the wrong kind of there, and your placement of a in a part is incorrect. Right? That's just one example. My favorite is when someone's like, I want to be a part of that, not a part, like a part, right? It's a part, but they said a part, right? As in separate. That's just me, maybe. I don't know. Maybe some of you have experienced that before. How about capitalization? I found that even I'm struggling. Like, I love English, I love writing, I love reading, and I'm struggling to remember when a capital begins. All right, so it's proper noun? What's a proper noun? Like, I don't even know anymore. Communication has gotten pretty crappy for us, but it's funny because 2,000 years ago, James had some advice for us. In a letter he wrote to the church, titled after his own name, chapter 1, verse 19 says this: "Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires." As we talk about our communication and digital communication, we have to start in a place where we understand our purpose in communicating and how we do it. So James gives us some advice on this. First, he says, you must be quick to listen. Active listening. My favorite is, there are times when I turn on the yep, sure, totally. Josiah, what was I talking about? I have no idea what I'm saying. I apologize. I really wasn't listening. It's funny, digital or not, there's four minds, there's four thoughts happening in every conversation, in every communication. First one, there's the mind of what are they saying? Four things we have to pay attention to. What are they saying? The second one is what are you saying? The person listening. Right? So it's one thing to know what the other person is saying, but then you're thinking, okay, what am I communicating? The third one is what should I say next? And finally, or what are they saying next? And finally, what am I going to say next? And if we're focusing on all four of those things, we're not truly listening. I did something this last week. I got rid of 3 of those things. I stopped thinking about what I was going to say or what I was saying. I stopped thinking about what they were going to say next, trying to guess it. I stopped thinking about what I was going to say next, and I just focused on what people were saying to me in the present. And it's funny that I didn't have this with me when I was doing it. Wednesday afternoon is when I started. Guess what? This thing was broken. It was gone. And I found that my conversations with people were far more powerful and meaningful. Thursday night, I got coffee with a really good friend of mine. And usually when I'm talking to this guy, there's a barrier, and I don't know what it is. I mean, I do now. I kind of have a glimpse into it. I'm focusing on 4 things while he's talking to me, and I'm trying to help him through an issue in his life. And so this week, as I got rid of 3 of those, and I got rid of this mobile device, which actually studies show that even when the mobile device is present on the table, even if it's upside down and away, trust tanks. It goes way down in a conversation. And I was talking to him and just listening. And then I asked him a question, clarify. What does that mean? You said this. What do you mean by that? And all of a sudden, we got to a place in this conversation that we've never been in our years of friendship. Quick to listen. Get rid of 3 minds and just focus on that one thing. What are they saying? This works in your marriage. This works when you're talking to teenagers or to kids or to coworkers. This works in any situation in your life. If you truly hear what someone is saying, then you can respond to it. But if you don't hear it, how are you going to accurately respond to something? The second thing that he tells us in this is be slow to speak. Slow to speak. All right, I got a question for you. How many of you have ever posted something online via your mobile device that immediately you were like, oh, I wish I could have that back? Or sent a text and you're like, I shouldn't have said that. See, I do that on the regular. But James says, be slow to speak. Slow. Take your time. Think it through. Be careful. Quick answers are trouble for us. Funny story for you. I don't know how. Okay, I'm real honest. One day, Esquire magazine started showing up on my doorstep. I don't know how it happened. I've never subscribed to this. I did this thing online for a little bit where I would answer answer surveys, and I was actually like making money because of how many surveys I would answer, and I was doing different. It was a weird time in my life. All right, I'm just being dangerously honest with you. But Esquire magazine started showing up on my doorstep, and their slogan is "Man at his best." And in every issue, there's a letter from the editor that talks about men being at their best, and kind of like the beard cream that randomly showed up that Titus ordered, or the pills, I took it. So Esquire magazine started showing up. I'm like, okay, I'll read it. This week, the letter from the editor was titled "Man at His Worst," and he used his full-page spread to talk about sexual harassment and how men have always abused their power, their role, their influence in a negative way. And he asked the question, such a dangerous question. He said, "What about you?" Slow to speak, because sometimes we speak too quickly and say the wrong things. But also important here is being slow to speak, which means make sure you speak up to speak for the right things. See, all too often there's issues, there's things that come up in culture, and we're so unwilling to talk about it. We're so unwilling to face it and say, this is wrong, this is not okay. And words have such a powerful influence in our lives. We don't even realize it. We're going to touch on that a little bit later today. But I want us to have that mind that what we say matters. Whether it's through a digital post or through a conversation we're having in person or on the phone, whatever it is, the words we say and use matter. Be slow to speak, but make sure you speak. Third thing he says is slow to get angry. When I was a kid, I was a little bit of a hothead. Still can be in the right context, which is usually any context involving sports. I'm still a little bit of a hothead. I get a little intense. And when I was a kid, I had a really bad temper. And it was the smallest thing that could set me off, like someone not understanding what I said because I had a lisp, a speech impediment. I couldn't say my R's, and then everything came out like that. And it was terrible. But it made me so angry when someone didn't understand me. And one day my brother, he was like, "What, Joe? What was that? What?" Deliberately. And I knew he was doing it deliberately. So I grabbed a pillow, and I was so mad that I threw that pillow at my brother. It knocked him over, and he fell through the window in the living room. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. It's funny, things happen when you're angry that you just don't even understand. What was I thinking? I said that? I did that? I threw that? What? A couple of years ago, see, as we talk about digital natives, I don't know if I am truly a digital native, because a couple of years ago, I was really angry, and it was a low point in my life, and I got off the phone with someone, and it was my boss, I'm gonna be real. It's always the boss, right? And I was so mad and so frustrated that I took my phone and I threw it across the house. Now, if I'm not angry, there's no way I'm gonna throw my phone, because I understand that if I throw this phone, I have to pay for it. That is not fun. But in my anger, I chucked my phone, and it didn't break the phone. Like, the screen was fine. It just kind of separated the phone. And so I had 12 different parts of an iPhone. I didn't know there were 12 different parts of the outside of an iPhone. Human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. And here's what's crazy. I love social media, but I also hate it, because Facebook is just terrible. Can we be real honest for a sec? People express their anger far too quickly, and I judge them for it. It's my sin too. I'll admit it. Right? People get online and they are so quick to express anger and dissatisfaction and they say things that don't make any sense to anyone else, but it does to them because they're hot-headed in the moment and they're so worked up about this issue that they just have to tell someone. But you can control that. Nothing good comes of our anger. Let's move on in James. Verse 21 says this, so get rid of the filth and evil in your lives and humbly accept the word God has planted in your hearts, for it has the power to save your souls. As we're talking about communication, as we're talking about being a digital native, or some of you a digital immigrant, you weren't born in the digital world, but you've immigrated, you're full-blown digital now. One of the things we have to do is get rid of the filth. What we're seeing, what we're saying, what we're doing. A digital cleaning, dump the cash. Some of you need to remove apps. Like straight up, just like hold down that button and remove the app. Some of you need to block apps in general. Some of you need to block yourself from accessing the apps, especially when you're in that moment when you're a little hot-headed and you're about to say something that you can't take back. Yeah, you can delete the post, but people have seen it. More importantly, get rid of the filth in the things that you're telling yourself by what you do, what you say, what you look at. Do you have accountability? We talk about getting rid of the filth, especially in our communication. One of the things that strikes me is that we are constantly preaching to ourselves and to everyone around us. And if you're not getting rid of the filth in your life, then the question is, what are you preaching? What are you saying to yourself? Because whatever you're saying to yourself is eventually going to come out in what you say to others. Get rid of filth and accept the word. Here's the deal. Here's why words are important. In the beginning, Genesis 1 says that God created everything by the spoken word, by fiat. God used words to create everything. Words are so important because God chose to create everything from the word. In fact, James says that it's out of the overflow of the heart that the mouth speaks. Right? Your tongue is merely a reflection of what's going on inside your heart. And he says you have to accept the word. Well, who is the word? It's not just what, it's who. Before we can redeem, before we can change, before we can shift the way we communicate, we have to understand that we need to accept the word. Both God's written word right here, the Bible, but also, as John 1 says, the word became flesh. We have to accept Jesus. We have to ask Jesus to come in and shape us and clean us. Because when we accept the word, all of a sudden, we're no longer, as the church, standing by letting Esquire magazine speak for us. Because right now, the church is a little silent on some major issues, and the word talks about it. The word brings it all to light. And yet, we're not saying this is the word, this is the way that God is going to fix this broken world. Accept the word. Believe in Jesus. Believe the words written in the Bible. But that's not enough. Don't stop there. James 1 goes on. He says this, but don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you are only fooling yourselves. For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it is like glancing at your face in a mirror or in your selfie camera. You know you've done it. You see yourself walk away and forget what you look at, what you look like. if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. Do something. See, it's one thing to say, yeah, I believe I'm going to change, and then go from here and not do anything about it. But spiritual depth is not about what you believe or what you know. It's about what you do. Jesus said, you're going to know my disciples by their what? By their fruit. The things they produce. How do you tell what kind of tree you're looking at? Well, you know by the things that it produces. You can tell an apple tree because apples are coming out of it. You can tell an orange tree because oranges are coming out of it. Sometimes it's a little tough to tell trees apart, but when you look at the flower or the leaves, the things that it produces, you'll know what kind of tree it is. It's by your fruit. Digital or not, use your phone, your devices for good. Be an encourager in your marriage, in your relationships, at your school, at your work. Verse 26 of James 1, it says this: if you claim to be religious, but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself and your religion is worthless. Speak life. Speak life. Get control of your tongue. Get control of your fingers acting as your tongue. Use your voice to speak life into others. Be an encourager. Take every word you say and make sure you're paying attention. The other day I was driving and someone behind me honked. It wasn't at me. It was at the person to my right. And I looked over at my wife and I was like, man, that was a girly horn. Wait a second. Let me take every word I say. What am I really communicating? I'm communicating something that I don't need to be doing. I love my daughters, and I think they're some of the strongest people I know. Why would I use that word? We have to pay attention to what we say, because the tongue can both give life and also destroy it. And James goes on in chapter 2, and he says that a small fire, a small spark can ignite an entire forest. Or what great ship is controlled by such a small rudder? And that spark and that rudder is your tongue. It's your voice. It's how we communicate. Our challenge this week, as we have our digital fast, that's going to be there the rest of the series. Every week I'm going to ask you guys, how did you do this week? And I know that some of you will just lie to me and be like, oh yeah, it was hard, I cheated. It was hard, I did it. But some of you are actually doing it, and I challenge you to continue doing it. And use that time to focus on how you listen, on how you communicate, on the words that you say. Use your digital presence, use your voice for good. Be bold. Be willing to use any platform you have to speak out into the injustices and the things that you see around you. Use your voice to speak life, to speak Jesus into others' lives. Remember this, 1 Corinthians. Even though I am allowed to do anything, I must not be a slave to anything. It's a fresh start. Only way to not be a slave to anything is to accept the word. Hebrews 1 says that many times, in many ways, God spoke to us through his prophets, but in these last days, he's speaking to us through his word, through Jesus, through the Bible. The word of life. Accept the word. As we respond in worship today, we've made room. We're going to have time to come to the table, to come where Jesus said, this is my body broken and this is my blood shed for the forgiveness of sins, so you do that, what I want you to do is I want you to pray through two things. One, where are you not speaking life? Where your words, where you're not quick to listen. In fact, you're quick to speak and slow to listen, and anger is everywhere. The second thing I want you to ask yourself and pray through is, have you accepted the Lord? As always, if you need prayer, if you need a talk, I'm in the back. I would be more than happy to pray with you or talk with you. Don't lose this opportunity to do that and get right with you. Jesus, you are good. Lord, as we talk about the words that we say, we know it's not true that words are powerless. I pray that we would speak life. Lord, that we would be known by our fruit of what we do and what we say. We accept you, Jesus, the Word, the only thing who can redeem and forgive. We love you. We can't live without you. We thank you for this one.
We're going to stand and raise our voices together and sing Cornerstone. It's the work of Christ that is the foundation of our faith. And we're going to come together to the table and take communion, remember his death. Let's sing this together first. Hope is built on nothing left. In Jesus' blood and righteousness, I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but only trust in Jesus' name. Darkness veiled in the Savior's flame, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every heart and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. Cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the sun, He is Lord, Lord of all. Darkness seems to hide His face. I rest on His unchanging grace. In every heart and stormy gale, my anchor holds within. Cornerstone, weak made strong, Savior's love. Through the sun, He is Lord, Lord of all. Cornerstone, weak made strong, Savior's love. through the storm. He is Lord. Precious Lamb of Jesus Christ, we come to the altar. Father's arms are open wide. Redemption is bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Come to, let's sing a song. The Father's arms are open wide. Redemption is bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. And every time I see you, Father, you are all we need. How great and glorious your kingdom come, your will be done. together, lifting his name above all others. We lift your name above all. Your kingdom will forever reign. To you the Give us hope, give us faith, help us trust in your guidance. From the depths of your grace, you have richly provided. Thank you, Father, you are all we need. Father, you are all we need. Amen. You guys have a great week. We've got coffee in the back. We'd love to meet you. Thanks so much.